questions. Questions orales. The honourable member from Regina Capel.
When will the Prime Minister make it illegal to smoke crack in a hospital room? Just the date, please.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the province of BC made a request for a temporary pilot project. BC now has concerns about that project, which we share. We are now working together to address those concerns. Opioid addiction is a tragedy that has affected far too many Canadian families. We have to work together to solve it, not score cheap partisan points off the pain of Canadians. There are no pilot projects anywhere else in Canada.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
Because of this government's decision, it is no longer illegal to smoke crack, meth, or shoot up heroin in public spaces in British Columbia like parks, hospitals, and public transit. The British Columbia government has now begged the Prime Minister to reverse this decision. So, simple question, when will the Prime Minister once again make it illegal to smoke crack in a hospital room? Just the date.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, unlike the Conservatives, we believe in working together with Canadians to solve our country's most pressing problems. That's why earlier this week I was in touch with Premier Eby, and I assured him that we share his concerns and we are working urgently together to address them. And let's remember, opioid addiction is a tragedy which is afflicting so many Canadian families. Let's work together to help them not score cheap partisan points.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
Dangerous addictions are hurting Canadians. After this government's decision to change the law, overdose deaths shot up and drug-related crime went through the roof. Now, the British Columbia government is asking for the government to reverse their decision. It's a simple question. It's a simple decision to make. So one final time, Mr. Speaker. On what date will this government make it illegal to smoke crack in a hospital room? Just the date.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, unlike the Conservative House Leader, I've actually been in touch with the Premier of BC about this truly pressing issue. And unlike the Conservatives, we are working collaboratively with the province of BC. We share their concerns, and we are working together to support public health and public safety. What we're not doing is fundraising off of the pain, death, and suffering of Canadians. Mr. Speaker, I am really glad that the member opposite has raised an issue about which the Conservatives have been notably silent, and that is our increase in the inclusion rate on capital gains. We agree with the member opposite that it is just not fair for a nurse or carpenter to pay tax at a higher marginal rate than a multimillionaire. But I agree with the member opposite. I think the Conservatives support that kind of unfair tax policy.
The honourable member from Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
The Liberal Minister for legalizing hard drugs is misleading Canadians. Yesterday, she told Canadians that Liberals were waiting for further information from British Columbia in response to BC's request to end this legalization experiment. Yet, just yesterday, the BC minister responsible told us that they had responded to the government in just a few hours. This, when BC had 2,500 overdoses in just 1 year. Why are the Liberals misleading Canadians, and will they end their radical drug policy?
The Honourable Minister for Addictions and Mental Health.
Mr. Speaker, the opioid crisis is affecting communities and families across this country, and it's a tragedy. That is why the BC government approached the federal government for a 3-year pilot program. BC communities are facing extremely serious challenges, and people are dying from deadly street drugs, and public consumption is a concern. BC is amending their proposal, and we are supporting them in this work, Mr. Speaker, because that's what we do. We partner together to save lives. What is their plan, Mr. Speaker?
The honourable member from Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Well, they did partner together. They partnered together for a radical policy that has led to countless deaths. Imagine an elderly woman in hospital having to sit beside somebody, lay beside somebody who is smoking crystal meth.
The honourable member to start again. I'm hearing some voices from the far end of this room, which I cannot hear. And I'll ask the honourable member to start his question from the top. The honourable member from Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
The minister is correct. The Liberals have partnered with somebody. They partnered with the provincial NDP to create a crisis of unprecedented proportions that led to people dying due to their radical policy. After 9 years, this Liberal NDP government is flooding the market with free drugs. This is happening to our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, our mothers, our children. They are all being fueled with addiction of the free drugs. Will the Prime Minister reverse course and end his radical experiment of legalization?
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we work with our provincial jurisdictions to ensure the health and safety of Canadians in the face of this toxic drug supply. We are treating this with urgency, Mr. Speaker, and all partners are working together to find a path forward as fast as possible to provide operational clarity for law enforcement, healthcare services, and all those who are involved in saving lives, Mr. Speaker. We want the same thing, public safety and access to public health care services for those who need it. They would cut everything. We are here to save lives.
John.
Before I pass the microphone again to the minister, for the honourable member from Kelowna Lake Country, I'm going to ask all members, please, to hold your comments until you're recognized to have the floor. The honourable member from Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal minister responsible for legal hard drugs in British Columbia isn't being straight with Canadians. Yesterday, she said she's waiting for more data from BC to decide if she would reverse her decision to legalize drugs like cocaine, opioids, and fentanyl in parks, playgrounds, and hospitals. The BC NDP confirmed yesterday they answered the Liberal government's request for more data within hours. Wow. After 9 years of this Prime Minister, drug deaths tragically rose 380%, as if that wasn't enough data. Why won't the Liberals be honest with Canadians and just end their radical drug policies?
That's a great question.
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we speak to our provincial counterparts and those who are the experts and with lived and living experience. The opposition, the member from Carleton, won't even meet with Mom Stop the Harm or other experts and those who are advocating for their families and their lives. We continue to work with our BC counterparts. They have provided amendments to their proposals, and we are working together to face the public consumption issues.
The honourable member from Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I speak to residents in my community, and the minister isn't listening to British Columbians. She didn't listen to BC mayors who wanted to stop open drug use in their community a year ago. She's not listening to BC parents horrified to find crack pipes and needles near schools and playgrounds. A student project from a school in my community had students writing to me about issues important to them. Unbelievably, crime and open drug use was the #1 issue. This Prime Minister is not worth the cost. Why won't these Liberals be honest with Canadians and just end their radical drug policy?
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives aren't genuine with Canadians about their care or concern for those who are dying from the toxic drug supply. The opposition leader talks a big talk about investing in treatment, but Conservatives cut 2/3 of their drug treatment fund when they were in power, Mr. Speaker. They only focus on treatment and recovery. They don't focus on safe consumption sites. They don't focus on harm reduction as health care. Mr. Speaker, we need to partner with everyone. When will they listen?
The honourable member from Mission Massey Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal minister responsible for legal hard drugs is misleading Canadians. Drug overdoses are now the leading cause of death among youth aged 10 to 18 in British Columbia.
Shameful.
Just yesterday, she said she was waiting on more information from the BC NDP government, which the province said they delivered within hours. How much more information does she need to end their radical and extremist policy, which is putting the children of British Columbia at risk?
Here.